Welcome back, everybody. This is episode 3 of But Like Why the podcast with your hosts. I'm Taylor Kelly. This is Stephanie McIntosh. And today we have a very special guest, Mandy Colon, joining us for this episode.
Woo!
Howdy do. Howdy do, guys. I live in Ocala now, so that's how we greet each other. So it's howdy do.
Mandy, thank you so much for coming on our show today. How have you been? What's going on? How have the last few months been for you?
Crazy. Just as anyone else is probably their past few months has been. Mm-hmm. For us, it's been a lot of moving around, a lot of adjustments, out of a job into a totally new one. Lots of things, we didn't see coming. I don't think anybody quite, saw this coming, but kind of stay on your toes and ready to attack whatever comes next. But yeah, it's been fun. It's been a moving, to Ocala and then to another house in Ocala. So we just moved into our new place and we've been settling into that.
Yeah, for this past week.
Nice.
The past week. Yep.
I feel like that's I feel like everyone's having so many changes, so many things are coming up and evolutions of our own journeys, and I don't know, when you're physically moving on top of that, I feel like that has an extra weight to it. But then also it might be really cleansing to just go from place to place and change it up and kind of find where your puzzle piece fits, I guess.
Yeah. I always liked moving. As growing up, I would move once a year. Not states or anything, but just houses. And I always liked the part of starting over or just having a fresh environment and
same.
It's almost like a clean slate, and you can try to even start new habits and things like that when you move, because it kind of shakes up your whole routine. So it's an easy way to implement new habits, I feel when you move and get out of old ones, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And I feel sometimes you have to force yourself out of old habits.
Yeah,
definitely.
I
agree with you. It helps with just incorporates all of it, this whole change, and okay, what other new habits can I bring about, or what old habits can I drop and leave behind, because obviously it's a new chapter. And
what habits have you left behind?
For me, mostly just the one that I've noticed the most, I guess, would be a self-sabotaging kind of story that I've been telling myself for I don't know how long, until you start to realize, there are certain blockages in my life, and you start to take ownership and responsibility for that. And in turn, that results in you diving deeper within yourself and stop blaming and pointing fingers at whatever, the story that you've told yourself or where you've come from. It all plays a part, right? Or so we think. So
yeah, I agree.
So I guess, a lot of that has just been telling myself a new story. One of a fresh slate, one of forgiveness for, whoever's hurt me, whoever I've hurt. Done my best to reach out and kind of mend, whatever, pick up whatever pieces were left along the way, just to, live a better life, and as a result, live with a clear conscience and to do better as a result. And, sometimes that doesn't mean talking face to face with the person that you hurt or whatever, but sitting with yourself, giving yourself that forgiveness, that surrender allows you to move on in different ways that, I don't know, it's kind of like a light shining, it feels like. Mm-hmm. And you kind of are aware of a lot of this good in your life, and also a lot of the things that you haven't quite paid attention to or haven't been as clear because you've been focusing on whatever it is you're focusing on your life. So for me, it's just been this story of, a victim, or because I've been through this, that, and the third, I think that I deserve this kind of a special treatment or something. And maybe it's not so there on the conscious level, but subconsciously, it is.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it's that feeling of I've done so many things right, or I've aligned myself into you've tried to do everything the best you can, and sometimes I feel like life doesn't necessarily equate that way. It's not an equation. It's not necessarily a token system. sometimes you're kind of put in situations where you have to look at things from multiple perspectives. Maybe it was a failure, maybe it was a disappointment, but I feel like all of those moments kind of add up into, once you take responsibility for yourself, it adds up into your opportunity to really like paint your life in the way that I don't know, you've dreamed of, or you've always wanted to. And I think that, you know, self-sabotage in a lot of ways, I feel like I suffer from it. I mean,
Of
probably
course.
but anyone, but it's, you know, it's such a mind game of being like, oh, I need to like put away these things that hurt me so I can move forward and become who I've always wanted to.
Yeah.
I don't know if that made sense at all.
Yeah, no, it definitely does.
Yeah, yeah, because I mean, you have to like move forward somehow. You know, it's like, all right,
You
keep
have to
going.
allow yourself that space, create that space
Right.
for growth to happen. So,
And I think that's
if that
happening
doesn't,
collectively too. It's like everyone's kind of making peace with not only like things from the past in your life, but also generational traumas.
Mm-hmm.
That's a lot of work just to kind of punch
Mm-hmm.
through things that maybe your relatives haven't ever spent the time to actually heal through and work through. And it's like, oh, you're the one inheriting.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
that's interesting. I feel like generational trauma is it's kind of like this new age kind of like, oh, there is generational trauma.
Yeah.
But I feel like, there have been people in the past who have known just in their core of generational trauma, but now with new ageness and the spirituality and these, studies coming up or whatever have you, just more broad ideologies, we're all starting to understand, generational trauma. But can you kind of like go into like detail about like what generational trauma might look like or might be for someone who doesn't understand what that, because
Oh, yeah. Like, I feel like for me, you know, it's just like you have like older generations that aren't as inclined to want to know more about mental health and
Mm-hmm.
just working through. I mean, our generation, I feel like, is pretty lucky. Like, we, you know, on a large scale, we haven't had that many, so much on like a massive scale of just overall just terror or trauma. Like, I think we all have our individual stories and collectively we've maybe experienced things, but not on the level as like people in other countries or even our parents that have kind of experienced so much more. And it's like, you know, you go through a lifetime. There's so many periods of just like disappointment, hurt, destruction. You know, kind of dealing with the way that the social classes and systems have worked. All those kinds of things really chip away your self-esteem. I think over time, your confidence. And I think that, you know, the way that we embroil those things and we walk forward those things, we might think because we're strong and we have to handle it and have to resolve it, that like, oh, I've challenged it, I've exposed it. But I don't think until you have like a dark night of the soul type period where everything is just kind of coming up and it's just like a very aggressive, like you cry, everything comes up, you're kind of an asshole to most people and you're kind of like exercising these demons, what I would say. I feel like that's a step forward. Like I don't know. I mean, I honestly don't know enough about it to say like, oh, like how would a monk or a shaman approach these things? But
no.
I just know that like, you know, for me it was like getting a therapist and like really unpacking things that I had never really thought about, or kind of just like unpacking like why I attract certain energies or why am I attracted to certain energies. And then I can look back into my past and be like, oh, because this is, you know, what I've come up against in my life. And I think that's a great first step for me. And I'm learning so much and really trying to identify the things that I really want. Because I think that for so long, it's kind of been like, because this is my experience, I was just gonna do it. And then I'm like, how am I gonna plan my way out of it? Because I hate it. And never really wanting to step into conflict and be like, okay, this might add conflict, but like I need this to be happy, and just not being able to do that. I could tell that it's something that I don't know where it comes from. I'm not sure if it's like what part of my gene line that sort of fear is something that's generational. I'm not really sure, but for me, it's been really working through that and kind of like experiencing like nothing about this year is what I thought it was going to be. Like I thought I was, a year ago I thought I was like on the cusp of making it and my whole life was going to change. And now it's like, I'm probably 4 times further back than I was. But the one thing that this year has allowed me to do is to just recognize like how short life is and how I would like to take ownership of things and no longer just be an employee, no longer just be a participant in what's happening, but to actually be the driver in my life and being ready to do so.
Yeah. Being like that conscious creator of your own life.
Yeah.
And like realizing that you can do that. I feel like, that could be another generational thing. Just holding yourself back, hearing maybe like what your mom and dad said, like growing up, I feel like a lot of parents come from that place of lacking, and that like really is so deep rooted, like, in a lot of people, whether it's finances or really anything in life, just kind of always looking at the negative side or things like that, like habits like that you inherit from your parents, I feel like are, I mean, I definitely like have been thinking about generational issues and things like that a lot more this year. It's come up like while meditating, it just comes up, and I recognize that that's definitely something that like I want to stop with me. Like I'm gonna be the last one that perpetuates this issue in my family because I'm sick of it. Like you get to that point where you're just like, no, I'm doing this differently. I'm not gonna follow in these footsteps.
Right.
I'm not gonna let these stories tell me that I can't do it or that I'm not good enough or I'm not loud enough or whatever. It's like getting to that point where you're just like, no, I can't take it anymore. I'm going to create my own future now.
Yeah, especially when you're inheriting these ideals or these ideas of lacking, or, maybe you didn't come from like the wealthiest family, so it's like you come from a place of lack. I think that's like, that's not so hard. It's like me, I'm trying to like use affirmations to be like, I attract money, I attract energy, but it's like, it's so easy. Just one moment of taking the foot off the pedal, you kind of like rescind back into this like pit.
Yes, 100%.
Realizing that the work's never really done,
Yeah.
It's literally every single moment is like an opportunity to do work on yourself. Like it's insane how, enlightenment and things like that are painted this linear way, and it's really not like that at all. It's like, one day you could be totally like blissful, and then the next day it's like 1,000 steps back, and why am I still hurt about this? And just like giving yourself like even just permission, or being forgiving towards yourself and understanding that like we're just human, and like emotions and things like that are so complicated and deep. And I don't know, I'm super feeler, so I like feel everything, and I have to somehow articulate how I feel with words, and sometimes that's really hard to do.
Oh gosh,
and yeah. And she's different. Like she's more like not super logical, but like we definitely differ in that way, where it's like I'm super feeler and she's like, why are you so like upset about this, or why is this really affecting you in this way? And it's like, I don't know,
some people, and she's explained it to me as just some people, they just process differently at different times at different rates, in different ways. And for me, it's like if something is gonna trigger me or bother me, and it's a feeling you get in the pit of your stomach, and that'll solicit a reaction if you let it get that far. But for me, it's like an emotion will come up, and I'll sit with that emotion. And what I've been practicing or trying to practice and get better at is just recognizing that as the emotion comes up, and before I can react or say something really dumb or do something that I might regret, sit with the emotion, feel through it. Is this something that's worth reacting over? Do I have to protect my ego like over this? And that's what a lot of time reactions come down to, is you protecting your ego, and rather you can, kind of just be quiet, coast on, feel it out, take a deep breath, let it out. But you have to also be considerate and understanding and non-judgmental towards people who might process life differently. And, that's just the way it is.
Yeah.
And we have to be more understanding towards that concept. Because I used to come from a place where I was very hard-headed, because, I looked up to my dad, and he was just like, oh, that's just, that's punk ass mentality, and, it's weak minded. Like if you get like caught up, and, I think part of him was, there's some truth to it, of course. And my dad's aggressive with the way he words things. So, you kind of just like, oh yeah, that's weak mindedness or whatever. But, I'm blessed to have people like Taylor, and I'm sure other people in my life who have taught me otherwise. And it's like, no, it's not weak-mindedness. It's just a different way.
Yeah.
And
yeah, everyone's different. It takes me like sometimes years to process emotions, like from my past or whatever.
And even when you think you're a tough ass, and you're like, oh yeah, I just, as things come up, I feel them out right then and there, and then I let it go, and then maybe something comes up later on and you realize, oh, I never really sat with that and let that go. I might have told myself that I was doing so, but it's kind of like,
yeah,
oh man,
comes back around. It'll come up one way or the other.
Yeah, we're so used to just like taking things on and moving through, and I think that in itself is just like, if you think of the mind like a filing cabinet, and it's like everything is a file. Some files are larger than others. Some files need more acknowledgement. Some files will visit you later. That to me, it's like something I'm starting to realize like how long I've just been like, everything's gonna be great, everything's gonna be fine, and let's power through. And I think that was very inspiring for others to be around. But I never allowed myself to heal. So I think that, for me, that's been a really big focus this whole year, is just finding a way to work through all of those feelings, understand them that not everything is personal, which is really hard. I think I'm an empathic as well. Some things are like energetic attacks. Some things are just like, it's energies and beings that don't even really have to do with the person, because I'm somebody that believes that like energies and beings house into our bodies all the time, especially if you're not conscious. And you really have no idea where elements and energies are coming from. And just really trying to learn just a law of detachment, not being so affected by everything. But it's hard. It's hard work.
Oh yeah.
Like I talk about it in a way of like knowing it exists, knowing that people are able to do it, but haven't quite been able to master it yet, and want to master it. Something I would definitely want to be better at.
Absolutely.
It's not easy.
No.
It's definitely not easy.
No.
It's
a lot of blood, sweat, and tears too that come from it. But I think we can all agree that, the end result, or I'll put it in air quotations, the end result, when you sit and you realize, oh, this is why I had to move through whatever I had to move through to get to this place, which is a little better than where I was at. And I think the more you can...
Sorry.
No, you're good.
That's why I love, I don't know if you guys watch Atlanta, but like the first season is so great because it's like, you kind of follow Donald Glover, as soon as Childish Gambino. I'm not really sure how.
I was about to call him Donald Glover, dude. I'm so happy you said Daniel Glover before I could say Donald Glover.
I don't know. I was like, dude, something. But the season ends where like, you watch most television shows and it's like, oh, we went through a whole season and we learned something and we were able to fix everything and now everything's great. Now next season. But this season didn't end like that. It was kind of like, they didn't really go anywhere. Like, ideas were formed, agendas were made, but in the end, all he really had was himself, and he had to like live in the storage closet. And I think that's like such a poetic way of saying that just because you have these ideas and you make these choices, it still might not be your time yet. We live in this like very artificial world where it's like, whether it's television or Instagram or Twitter, it's like people say that they're going to do these things. They sound really amazing, and then you don't ever see like the pitfalls in between. And I feel like Atlanta, that first season's so great for me because it's like you're watching the guy who's like, dropped out of school, doesn't really know what he's doing with life. He has a kid, and he's like, I'm gonna start managing hip hoppers. Like, I'm gonna start managing rappers. And I think that a logical minded person would be like, well, that's not gonna work either. Like, all of your ideas are really bad. And, he essentially is stagnant the entire season. There really isn't any growth. Like, it doesn't, like, the band doesn't really hit a big, and it kind of ends with him, like, returning in the storage unit to sleep, and you realize, oh, well, he only has himself, essentially. And I think that, that's such a huge lesson in life to learn, that just because, you have this hard time, it might be 3 years of hard times, but just, like, try to remind yourself not to give up. And the more that you're able to sustain and remain resilient through that, when you do get out of that hard time, it's going to feel so rewarding and so worth it. And I think that that's, like, we don't see that story enough. We don't hear people talk about that journey enough. We kind of just see the idea, and then the payoff, the success, and then, next thing it's like the episode where they talk about, oh my gosh, I survived all these things. Now look at my amazing career. And it feels so unattainable. But I think when you allow yourself to be vulnerable and exposed, like, this is what I've gone through. Like, this period of my life hasn't been the easiest period of my life, I'll be honest. But, every week, especially with this podcast, I hope every week that you start to see, like, things kind of pivot in a way that, I don't know, you can kind of, I hope that you can see the growth and see that, like, by the 100th episode, life will be so different. And I don't know, I feel like we need to just share that more often,
Yeah. That's such a good observation. It's so true. Like, I can even think of, like, motivational speakers that it's like they tell this tale of, like, oh, I was, like, such a mess and blah, 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 but look at me now. And it's like, even that is, like, kind of weird. Like, I don't know, because it's always, like, focused on, like, the good stuff, and it's like, what about, like, a motivational speaker that can talk about, like, some real hard times that maybe they're going through right now, like, not in the past, like, right now, and I'm still doing this career, and I'm still talking, I'm still trying to uplift people, but I'm going through a divorce. Like, I wish that there was, like, more of that,
I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, right.
Like,
the
oh,
story
look
is
at the past,
told, and the person who's standing on stage is telling this story that is now
past,
the
like,
story,
gone.
and now they are the successful person, when in reality they are still this person, and they are still going through these hard times. And I guess I can see that. I mean, I don't watch enough motivational speakers or anything like that.
There's just one that I don't know that came to mind.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
No, I think it's incredibly, we forget that we're humans. Like, I think that that's the craziest thing of just watching how this, I think it's just, like, waking up to, like, wow, like, we as humans, we don't really show our bad sides, which I understand, like, that sort of vulnerability is really hard, which I think is why when you come across a really amazing artist, it's like, wow, their work is so profound, because it's like, you're just kind of seeing, like, this person's, like, really just putting their heart. I think of, like, Amy Winehouse or, like, Lauryn Hill. When I hear those albums, I'm just like, wow, I can't believe they exposed this much,
Yeah, it's admirable.
Pain and personal, the personal
Hardships.
Triumphs. Hardships and triumphs that they've.
It's so funny, though, because I think about it, and I think about, like, people who are really, like, vulnerable, even, like, on Instagram, and will go on, like, their story, like, crying their eyes out or something. And there's also still this thing where it's like, you can get some, like, hate for that, even, being like, la la la, like, someone's always got something to say about everything, so
you're right.
I don't know, it's kind of interesting, because it's like, we want to be more vulnerable, but at the same time, when you are, people look at you and they're like, oh my god, they're so weak, or oh, that girl is always so depressed, or she's so annoying, she's always complaining, like, blah blah blah. I don't know, it's just interesting. There's two sides to it,
Yeah, and I think that's, like, part of that's, like, learning how to develop a thicker skin, which I think is really hard. I don't know. I see some people in, like, the public eye, and it's like they get such an onslaught of hate, sometimes wishing death on them, like, hate, hate,
right,
blaming things that have nothing to do with this person on them. And I'm just like, wow, like, how does this person get up every day and, like, go to work and keep going? Like, I just don't know many people who could, I personally can barely withstand it on my level, let alone when you have, like, the whole world on you. And
I can't even imagine.
you lose so much control. Like, you lose so much control of what's written about you, people are perceiving you. I don't know. I think that, you know, those kinds of people, I'm very curious about their rise, because I feel like you had to go through so much stuff to make you strong enough to even be able to sustain that sort of like public display and public just like barrage of just negativity and toxicity, you know?
Oh yeah.
Right.
Oh yeah. It's like you had to
Right.
have it rough to be used to this already.
And to not even have a chance, like a fair chance, other than probably, you know, said person's Instagram to defend their honor.
Right.
'Cause, you know, I don't know, you're bombarded by paparazzi or whatever, and they catch you on a really bad day, and
Yeah, right?
suddenly
It's like, I'm just trying to get a coffee.
and suddenly everyone has made up their mind about you. That
Yeah.
you suck.
Right.
That's it. And you're like, that's it. You stamp it, close the envelope, seal it, store it away.
Oh, we're so
That's
hard
just
on each other. We're so hard on each other.
It's just not fair.
You know?
Yeah.
But life isn't fair, so.
Yeah, that's
Life isn't fair.
No, but you say that, and I think that people really like don't hear that. I think that like life isn't fair for a variety of reasons.
Mhm.
Like, there's so many reasons. I could probably don't have time to go through all of them, but we look at things such black and white way, where it's like, because I'm this, or because I'm like this, or because a man's in power, this is what's happening, and it's like, that's not the way it works. Like, there's a multitude of reasons. Like, sure, maybe there's a situation where you're working for somebody and the guy's making more money than you, but maybe the situation where maybe that's just a bad environment, bad work environment. They don't respect you for who you are, so we probably shouldn't be working there. But then the next job you get, the guy might be making more money than you, and you're a woman, but he might be up 20 hours a day working his ass off.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Maybe he deserves it. So it's like, I don't know, or something where it's like or it's something that's the opposite, or it's something like one girl is skinnier and the other girl is heavier, and the girl that's skinnier seems to get all the work, and it's like really something that goes down to just like the skinnier girl. She gets more work modeling because she's more confident in herself, and it's like, you haven't built the confidence yet. And it's just like, you know, there's just so many minor things that we forget. And I think that, I don't know, like for me, I just think that
Well said.
if we just learn how to be like more understanding, like our empathy, I feel like it's just so poor right now. At least in America, you know. We have to be empathetic to each other and their journeys, and like where we are in that specific moment in our life, you know.
Yeah, I definitely hope for like more compassion.
Yeah, we could always
all around.
Because you think about, you know, you think about yourself on an individual level.
Yeah.
And if you're listening, think about yourself on an individual level and everything that you've been through, and everything you've been judged for. And, you know, you can go down the list. And a lot of it is unfair at times, or so it seems. But it's the way that you were perceived at the time, and, you know, it doesn't paint your story, it doesn't tell your tale. That how this one person perceived you.
Right.
And you're right, you know, if you just have this confidence of this sense of, I know who I am and I know where I stand, then you almost feel untouchable.
Yeah.
You almost kind of feel untouchable, but that takes a lot of time to develop, and you're not going to feel invincible and untouchable all the time.
Right. Or overnight.
Or overnight.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
On an individual level, I think we can all understand we've all been through some hard stuff, and I think we can all say that we've all had things that we might never even ever talk about with anybody else. You know, we carry these things, and I think we can, you know, the more compassion we have to our neighbor, to our brothers and our sisters, of the path that they choose to walk or their purpose in life, we honor that, we respect that, and we should be willing to help each other along the way, no matter what. I mean, really, no matter what, like,
yeah,
unless you're trying to murder me, like, I'm going to help you. And if, you know, if I see some inkling of, what do you call it? Hope or, or potential in you, then let's go for it. There's things that I've seen that maybe you haven't seen, and maybe my experience and in telling that can help you, you know, understand your experience a little bit better. But I think that's the beauty of communication and relationships, and really watering the flowers and not giving up when it gets hard.
Yeah.
That's where the strong, like, that's where the trees grow. You know what I mean? It's not just
Yeah.
flowers no more. These are the trees. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know.
Oh yeah, yeah. That's the big thing, and I think that resilience is something that I feel like the word resilience is something I feel like is so overlooked,
Mm.
and kind of underappreciated. When you meet somebody or you see somebody that's really resilient, it's like, wow, this person like did not stop. Like, especially when you know them on a personal level, you're like, this person just kept going.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
All that stuff I can't imagine. And I think that
Yeah.
those are the stories we need to be hearing. That's what we need to be remembering, and we need to be inspired by your neighbor when you do see something like that, or you've been following somebody's journey at that level, for sure.
Yeah.
Definitely. And to think of, I mean, it's a good point that you brought up of just um, understanding, I guess, just what other people have been through. And it's even sometimes those people who leave lasting impressions and who, have been through so much, and they continue to conquer, and they're resilient, and they move forward no matter what, no matter what. Sometimes those people die, their life is cut off early, and in their life, in their conscious life that they lived, they never saw that appreciation. Sometimes after someone dies, and then it could be hundreds of years later that we understand this person for the genius that they were, and all that they left behind, and you understand how lasting it is, and how it ripples through and inspires others. And you have to think about that too. It's like, even when you think, oh, I'm not doing anything right now, I'm not making a last impression, or whatever it is, that you're talking down on yourself for, you think about stories like that.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah,
Yeah.
it's a good story to
It
listen
can help
to.
you through, help like thinking and looking up to people like that. It can really give you enough strength to keep going whenever you can relate to someone else's story of
Really.
just hardships and obstacles. I mean, it
Yes.
makes it a little bit easier to just motivate yourself and be like, no.
Yeah. You think of the people in the hard times, you think of the people you look up to the most, and you think of, they did it, they got up and they continued on, and no matter what, no matter how many times they were thrown in jail, no matter how many times they were beaten and battered in the streets, no matter how many times, whatever the situation is, they came back,
Yeah.
And when I say thrown in jail, I think of specifically Martin Luther King, Jr., who's just, and his followers. Never give up,
Yeah.
Never give up mentality, and it's a lasting,
Like,
inspirational message.
Sacrificing yourself for the greater good, sacrificing yourself for the story, how there's generations and generations who look on and revere that life. That's, I mean, I don't know, or even like Michelangelo. It's like he, if you think about the Sistine Chapel and the amount of work that took, just painting upside down, like that scale, and it's like he was just a painter. He was happy to get a paid job,
Yeah.
But could he have imagined so many generations, people go to the Sistine Chapel, they look at this guy, and they're just like, wow, I can't believe one person made this.
Yeah. It's beautiful.
I feel like
it is.
we as a society have kind of lost that desire to just live a life where you're leaving an impression.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There
I
are
agree.
people, though, I will say that I've learned so. Like, I thank God for YouTube and outlets like that, because there are some people I'm like, wow, like they're just like going after like what they love, and they've been able to create this whole lane for them. And I think that's what people like Michelangelo did so well, is that they created their own lane. And I hope that comes back. I hope that we as a culture, we continue. We do a little bit more soul searching and trying to find what we could do specifically that could push society and our culture forward a bit more.
Yeah.
I think that we're kind of getting lost in the sauce with a lot of things that are going on because we've given up our own life purpose and fulfillment, or being fulfilled for something external, which is never healthier.
Right. And I think in the midst of, as we were trying to figure that out, this whole year kind of swept us all off our feet. So I think, there was almost like a gap of just like this, I'm unsure, and I'm unsure of my purpose. And then all of a sudden 2020 comes around, or whatever pivotal, whatever whatever time was pivotal for you.
Yeah.
Things swept you off your feet, you know, turned around. For us, it was, you know, our 2 dogs, or our dog and our cat passing away. Why are you laughing at that?
I'm sorry.
It's because I said 2
I'm
dogs.
sorry.
But yeah, it was, you know, we can laugh about it now, but
I'm sorry. It's like
I know, like, what's going on? I've gotten over it. They're happy in heaven. They visit me in my dreams, whatever. But you know, for us, that pivotal moment was that, and it was like, it's this. Rest in peace, Scaredy. Rest in peace, Lulu. They were the bomb.
Yeah,
But yeah, they both passed away within the same week of each other, and this was the end of 2019, beginning. This was New Year's Eve that they passed away, pretty much.
wow.
Yeah, it was crazy.
So it was an extreme, like, pivotal moment, but for us, it was so clear and concise because, you know, we're spiritual, and you know, you have to think, for them to pass away right before the beginning of the new year, like, this year's going to be unlike, you know, anything it might be, but you know, it's a pivotal moment, and you kind of.
Well, we looked at it and we were like, this is so crazy that this just happened this way. And it was like, whatever, telling us, like, it was God or the universe being like, they have to go.
There are things you have to let go of.
Yeah,
right
they
now.
need to go because you need to, like, let go of the stress of taking care of, like, sick animals, and financially it was like so many things stressful on multiple levels, and it was just clear as day, like, you need to, like, let go of this so that we can bring more in, because, like, there's no room for this anymore, and it's sad, but that's life, and things end and then things begin again. So it was like right after that, yeah, everything just went crazy, and then so much has changed for us. But like, even though it's been so stressful and just weird times, like the weirdest reality that we're in, sometimes it feels like not reality. It feels like an alternate reality that we somehow, like, jumped into on accident. Like, but I don't know, it's come with so many blessings, you know, at the same time.
I totally understand that. I think that, you know, that's something that's important that you guys brought up. It's like, you know, for you to get new energy, certain things do need to lose your life. Not lose your life, but, like, need to leave your life. And usually it's the things that you can never do on your own. And I think that's, like, the hardest part. It's like, oh, like, maybe you did internally feel like this is becoming a lot, like, this is becoming extra stress, like, I wish I could just focus on the things that are important, but, like, this is kind of pulling me away from that. You know, even though I'm sure you guys loved those pets so much, and they brought so much love into your life, but, you know, God was like, you know what, like, I want to put you guys in this situation because it will be more fulfilled here, and you're going to flourish, and you'll be able to love even deeper for whatever else comes into your life. That's hard to keep in mind. I feel like that's something that you should keep in mind. It's like when we do lose something, we lose 2 things, or 7 things, or 20 things, or 100 things. Just remember that, like, it's going to be replaced. It's going to be replaced, and it's going to be better. And it's in those moments where you're like, why is this happening to me? Like, why, God? Why are you coming after me? I think you gotta cling the hardest, and that's the hardest. The hardest is, like, when you don't want to cling to God and be like, oh, like, I don't even want to talk to you because I just feel like
I don't even want to talk to you right now, God. You're like,
but it's like you have to, like, go into it and be like, no, like, I have to keep holding on. I have to keep pushing forward. Like, I know you're preparing me for something. Whatever it is, you're setting the table for something.
That comes with having faith. You know, it just comes with, you have to have faith, and you know, to drive that point home, it's like 2020 happened, or whatever happened for most people, and they were in a point where they maybe hadn't lost all their faith for whatever reason, lost their purpose, or maybe their purpose changed, and then all of a sudden all this thing changed, and then, you know, you're getting told by, you know, the media or by a social media, Instagram, what to think, how to feel. You're very vulnerable at those times, and I think, you know, I think that we can all benefit from being just I don't even know how to say, just having a good solid foundation, a good solid belief, a good solid faith, in whatever that is for you. But you have to have something. You have to have something to
kind of guide you through,
lean on. Because we all need somebody to lean on. know?
I think also,
You know, Mr. Withers said it the best. You know?
you're right. Like, yesterday I took like a really long walk. It's like this little, it's like grassy waters. There's like a Weehee trail. I'm probably butchered it. It's like a Weehee trail. And it was really long walk. And it was just super beautiful just being around just like marshes and like trees and just like it was like a little humid, but it was windy, tons of clouds in the sky. And I just spent a second with like every animal or like insect I came in contact with. So it was like if there was a dragonfly, I looked really deeply into the dragonfly. Butterfly, I looked really deep into the butterfly, chased it, looked up what it meant.
Yeah, that's Taylor.
And I saw this really beautiful heron. It came out of nowhere. And I was just like when you allow yourself to kind of just let nature tell you, and then it's funny how it resonates when you look at the meaning of the bird or the animal. Mm-hmm. And you're like, wow, like, how is this a meaning that coexists with exactly how I'm feeling? I don't know. It was a really beautiful walk. I feel like I really needed it from like a soul place, because it was just kind of like my iPod kept this music, like it wouldn't shuffle, like it would shuffle, and then it would turn on some like a shuffle song, and then it would play a whole album, and I just kind of felt like I was supposed to like hear each track on this walk. I don't know. I just kind of like made things feel, but you can drive yourself crazy, sure, by looking at synchronicity and everything. But I just felt like for that moment, I just want everything to be. Just want to see the synchronicity of everything. I just want to see the magic in life.
Yes.
And just like focus on that, and focus on the happiness, and the peace that you can find when you're just looking at like, I'm meeting or seeing this thing and it's not an accident.
Yeah.
Not to forget that. I feel like nature helps with you remembering that too.
Oh yeah.
100%.
That always resets me. Like I am obsessed with birds. And yesterday there was a little dead bird on like the doorstep of our business. And I was like, oh, like made me so sad. But then immediately after I like,
door?
I don't know what happened. I just see people looking at it outside, and then they're like, Taylor, there's a bird, and go get it. So I took care of it and everything, and then immediately looked it up. What does it mean? Meaning of dead bird, and it's just said like the ending and the beginning of something. So, but that's his life, so that one's always relevant.
Yeah,
but I love that. I love finding the meaning in things like that like come to you.
Yeah, that's what I felt about the heron. It was like, it's really beautiful. It's just like the heron blades through marsh and swamp and anything else up and nothing to get their catch. And remember that determination, just like no matter what obstacles, it still goes and catches and dives deep into the water. Even if it can't see what's ahead, it still kind of keeps going. I was just like, it came out of nowhere. I was like walking, I was like, whoosh, and I was like, oh my god.
Oh my god.
They're beautiful too. Yeah.
And I was just like, wow, like
How relevant.
see that being not relevant.
You're like, okay, I see you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
No, yeah. And I remember like people, I don't know, I feel like people, that's when I feel like you learn how to develop a thick skin, because there's some people you tell that to and they're just like, you're crazy. Like, why are you looking so hard?
Yeah.
But I don't feel bad for those people, because I feel like that's like, people are like, magic's not real. Dude, that's magic. That's what magic is. Like, we see it in movies and we're like, oh, it's not real. But it's like, no, like, that's where that stuff comes from.
Yeah. It comes from real life. Yeah.
Yeah, it is funny. It is juju to some people. And you're like, juju? It's nature. We came from it.
Come on now.
Juju? You came from a womb. You were created in the womb. You know what I mean? From nothing.
Yeah.
There's no juju. And so I think, you have... Well, and sometimes you bring that into perspective for people, like, oh, you believe in this, but you can't wrap your head around this. Really, you can't wrap your head around that.
Yeah,
and that's okay if you can't.
That's funny,
but you can't try to understand it either. It's like, yeah, like, oh, it sounds crazy. Oh, go stand outside barefoot, on bare earth and see how you feel. And people are like, what are you talking about? Like,
I know. But that's never having shoes. I remember being in school and my dad and I were like late to school. used to drive me to school every morning. I like run out of the house. I get to the school. I look down. I'm like, I have no shoes. That's how much I used to just walk.
No way.
That I just like forget it. Like, I didn't have shoes on. And it happened a couple times. Where I go to school and be like, oh, I have no shoes on. We have to like turn.
That's happened to you a couple times?
Yeah, growing up happened to me a lot. Like,
That's so funny. I've had like nightmares like that when I was little, that I would go into like elementary school and look down and I have no shoes on.
Or like no pants.
Like I had
or,
that
like,
nightmare
whatever.
a couple
Yeah.
times. It's so funny.
should be allowed to do that. I think I don't know, I think kids should be. I think kids should always just be outside and just like enjoying the earth.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I think
tell
children
them
in
how
particular.
lies it's like, let's teach them the truth.
Yeah, come on now.
Children are, in particular, are so directly like open and aligned to that kind of just clear, more pure message.
Yeah.
So yeah, of course you're a kid and you go to school with no shoes on. It's
Oh, you little
like,
hill.
well, my natural, my little soul self. My soul don't wear no shoes, bitch. Let's go.
It's so funny now when I see like people are like, oh yeah, it's all about earthing. I'm like, earthing? I literally been doing that my life. Like I just got
What is this?
walk around barefoot.
Something to
Same.
capitalize on.
So funny.
It's nuts. Yeah. It's pretty special. I mean, and if, like you said, it's sad if someone can't realize the magic in it, because you think there's never been one experience, one situation in your life where you kind of like really appreciated the miracle of what was going on around you, or there was nothing that, something passed in front of you and it made you think about something.
No, I
You
think
just not be living consciously.
I think people who think like that must have experienced it, but then lost it along the way, and they've just blocked themselves off. Like they've just been hurt, been burned too many times. So I'm just gonna block myself off from it and not acknowledge it, and then it's like, then you're just living like a bleak existence. Like
Yeah, I think it's distraction. I think it's people are so distracted, caught up in their lives and
yeah,
their narrative, and that they so naturally, you leave, like we said about earlier, you leave no space for that.
right.
You leave no space for magic. You're not going to let any magic in, and you have to be willing to understand for you personally what that means to hold space for magic.
Yeah.
It's different for everybody. I think the basis is pretty simple, but it is different for everybody.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, it is. It is. And I think that, I guess for, yeah, and that's the thing. It's like you go through life and it's so easy. It's just like, do your task. Like, I have to go to this. I have to go to this appointment. I have to go to this lunch. I have to go to this meeting. And it's so easy to become unattached. And you just have to, and I think about like, the natives and our ancestors and how they were so ingrained in the land, and we had all this knowledge. And so much of that knowledge has been eradicated from our lives, And then, so it's like, it's just kind of wild when you look and you're like, we've forgotten so much. But I think that like this part of what's happening here is like, we're kind of experiencing an intervention from our ancestors, from our past healers, the natives, and they're just like, you guys need to reconnect, you need to come back, you need to ground yourself. Because if you don't ground yourself, essentially something else is going to ground you for you. And that's incredibly hard, I think, to become conscious of that. And then once you become conscious of that, you have a bigger responsibility.
yeah.
Oh,
yeah,
yeah.
and you have to be willing to take on and my boss says accept that mission. You know what I mean? You have to really accept that mission, and even though it might shake your comfort zone up, too bad. This is what life is asking of you right now, and it's all a contribution to the greater good, to the collective, to our human family. You have to understand that, and even though you're not getting the rewards as you're doing the things, you can't say that doesn't mean anything. And we have to stop telling ourselves that we deserve rewards for every time we do something right, or every time we get out of bed, or we push through something, or even if you push through 5 things that day. Someone's not going to be waiting at the finish line for you with, an ice cold water sometimes. Sometimes that's you.
Yeah.
You're right. No, 100% right.
And we just have to, and like you said earlier, kind of all have to grow tougher skin, because these are tougher times and they're just going to get tougher from here on out.
Yeah.
And we have to be willing and be open to the messages that are coming in at all times to evolve and to flow with the river of life, or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
Go
just
with it.
and recognize too that like you don't have to do everyone's. But I think like when you're a kid and you're like in that like school and you're like, oh, this so and so went to Harvard or so and so went to Yale. Like you see that their paths that were laid out for them, and those paths are probably the paths they're meant to go on. And it's so easy to compare yourself and be like, why didn't I do that, or why didn't I follow that same path? I think that there are some of us where it's like, I think everybody has their own innate path. But I think some of us, like, we're not supposed to follow that path or whatever that supposed path is that's supposed to be the right way. We're supposed to carve out our own. And I think that we have to become comfortable with that. Like, hey, like, even though this sucks and it's not what you thought it was going to be, and, you thought it was going to end up a different way, this is like, you learned so much and you already have it in you. So now go seek it and take what you learned and go build it. And it sucks building. Like, beavers sit there, they'll build a dam for weeks. But then you leave the forest, you come back, and it's like a whole thing. And you're like, how do they? But it's like, we don't see them take every single stick, like stick by stick. I love animal stuff too. I do. People always like, why do you like to watch animal stuff? Like, lions like chasing prey. I love it. I think it's like such an interpretation of life. To me, it grounds.
Yeah.
When I see like a cub in like the Sahara and then it gets eaten, I'm just like, well, that's what happens. And it's sad. It's incredibly sad, but it's like, that's like how life is. Like, you come in really sweet and really nice, and people take advantage, and you have to learn like how to defend yourself. You have to learn how to continue and succeed without building a wall and without being like without holding baggage. That's such a hard thing.
Oh, so hard.
That you go through so much, and you're like it's the easy way to like have baggage and to hold a grudge. It's a lot harder to make peace and let things go. Let things like do what they have to do and recognize that this is the way that things are, and this is like power is bigger than yourself. That's been such a lesson. I feel like I've been learning, and I'm sure other people learn it. And it's always interesting just to see what that becomes and like how you're able to create from that experience.
Yeah, because it's like, what are you gonna make of it? Like.
Yeah,
I don't know. I feel like
make of all of this.
Yeah, I feel like me and you are really similar. Like, we definitely like are very sensitive and like not. I don't know. I don't think I'm like the best at confrontation. Like, I don't like it. I'm usually like scared to speak up for myself, like things like that. It's like, why? Sometimes it's like you don't even know where the fuck that came from, and it's so annoying. Like, why can't I get past this? What is so scary about like standing up for myself, or what is so scary about just being direct with someone? I don't know.
No, yeah, it is. It's
so
like,
weird.
It's like it's like, cause to me, it's like I feel like I'm really chill. Like I'm kind of lazy. I just like to chill. I watch my TV shows. Like, I mind my business. And then you recognize that everybody's like that, and it's like learning how to coexist. Some people are threatened by that. Some people don't like it. Some people prefer structure, prefer control.
Mm-hmm.
I personally want as little control and over people that I can possibly muster. And I'd rather just like mind my own business and build my own fort. I think but I think that the older I get, the more I understand that that's like who I am, and I feel like I attract like minds where it's like they're also like that.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just kind of getting to know yourself, kind of getting to know your weaknesses, but not necessarily because I think I don't know. This is the thing. I feel mixed about like conflict. Like, I definitely think being direct helps, but I also think some people are willing to accept the directness. So I feel like.
Yeah, it goes both ways.
Yeah, it's like learning how to pick your battles.
Yep.
And also, but at the same time, learning how to not leave yourself behind. And I think it's really easy to do when you're empathic. when you don't like conflict, when you kind of just want to mind your business, it's like it's really easy to be like to lose yourself in that, especially if you're empathic. Because I think that when you have a lot of people that are kind of more energetic, more like demanding of what they want, you can lose yourself pretty quickly, and that's the scary part. And then you'll wake up and you'll just be like, none of this belongs to me. I don't know what any of this is. None of this makes sense. I don't even know who I am.
Yeah, I've been there. I've been there so many times, like with jobs and things that like have such an effect on like your psyche. Like, yeah, I've been there many times. It's crazy, but yeah, it's like about learning how to protect yourself from that and how to like really check in with your own energy. You know, when you're so sensitive, picking up on everything, it's easy to be overwhelmed and be like discombobulated.
Mm-hmm.
It happens so quickly with empaths, and just I don't know, it just piles on. Like if you don't tend to it, it will just pile and pile and pile until you explode or just I don't know, break down. You know,
Yeah.
it's like
Yeah.
you have to like tend to your stress, and even I feel like for empaths, it's like it might not even be your stress. Like sometimes I won't even know why I feel the way I feel. Like just like what is going on,
Yeah.
and I don't know. Yeah, it's so important to like find ways to like decompress or just like I don't know, come back to your own energy, come back to yourself, you know, and not get caught up in everybody else because that's too much for one person to handle.
Yeah, and grow yourself. Grow yourself like a flower. Eat the right things. Feel good. Like those are things. I feel like we forget that like we're like the human's a computer. I feel like the human body is a computer, but we're also like a flower. So it's like if you don't have nutrients, you don't feed yourself, you don't feed your mind, you don't like learn discernment, feed your soul. You know, it's really easy to lose yourself. I think that's what's happening to a lot of people right now. It's so weird to look online and just be like, I'm just like, I never, like, I don't get why I have to do so extra. Like, it's
Yeah.
like my own self trying to figure this out is a 24-hour job, let alone, you know, to give so much of myself off to something that's not even really natural to me.
Yeah.
It's like it's been created to kind of poison me.
Yes.
So why I give so much of myself to it when I can build myself up?
Yeah. Definitely finding that balance is I think where all the yumminess is finding that balance, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
And it takes work. You're not going to find it in a book. I mean, you might find some
Yeah.
help, some guidance.
But yeah, you got to take responsibility, and
Mm-hmm.
it's not always easy.
No, it's not. But I think when you get to the point where you acknowledge it, you're like, this is like what I'm going to do, and it's going to be something I'm going to put the work into it. And I'm so grateful for this year. I feel like it was such a blessing because it allowed me to really look at a lot of things. And I think for me, it was kind of interesting because I think things kind of started falling apart before the year started. So I got a little bit of a head start. But I feel like it's allowed me to really spend a lot of time to just unpack all generational trauma, just unpack and unpack and unpack.
Yeah.
And, you know, I feel like things are pivoting. I feel like I'm about to end something that's taken a lot of my life, and this project has taken a lot of time away, and it kind of allowed me to feel confident again in my abilities and like where I can take myself. So now I'm excited. I feel like it's kind of ending at the perfect time. It's about to be the holidays. It's going to be a great time to just like rebuild and restart and just find further nourishment. And I'm excited. I'm excited for 2021. I think 2021, we have so much we've survived, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Jeez. I don't know. I'm not a storyteller. I can't, you know, I'm not a fortune teller. I can't, you know, say how things are going to go. I mean, I think after what we've all experienced, I think they can only go up. So, you know,
I hope.
I remain
so.
optimistic about what's next.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely.
As we all should remain optimistic. Yeah.
Yeah.
Push through the hard times.
We got this.
It's just wave after wave because it's not going to stop. It's not like, oh, you conquer this hard time and then, you know,
It's hunky dory from there.
No, it's just going to be waves. So might as well just, when, you know, a tough time comes at you, handle it the best way you know how
And don't
Sit
forget
down,
to have fun.
sit down,
Just
yeah,
laugh
have fun.
things off. I feel like we like, I know I do it. I'm so serious all the time. It's like I forget to just like have fun.
Yeah.
Like just have fun with life. It doesn't have to be so serious all the time. Nothing has to be perfect all the time.
Yeah.
And it's like, let's just go. Let's just ride the wave. Like,
Right.
just,
And the more you do that, yeah, each wave that comes at you, it gets a little bit easier, a little bit
Yeah.
easier, a little bit easier, because you've done this before. You've been to this. You can
Yeah,
do
like
it.
Yeah.
riding a bike.
Yeah,
riding a bike.
exactly.
That's it.
Oh yeah, one of my favorite. I went on this like it was like a swamp boat tour, and the host, or I guess like
The speaker person.
yeah, like the tour guide, I guess.
Tour guide. Yeah, there you go.
He like grew up on the bayou, and if you've ever been to the bayou, it's kind of wild. It's just like thousands of miles of just like random turns and valleys of like marsh and
Mm-hmm.
swamp. And he's like, yeah, I grew up out here. Like I've been up and down this area. I've gotten lost a couple times. Life gets a bit tricky sometimes. I know whenever I'm having a hard time, I'm just like, yeah, this is like the really tricky part. Like, now I gotta like figure my way out of this.
Mm-hmm.
And you always do. But I think, I think at some point, and maybe this is just for me, but you just get to a point where you're just like, I'm tired of like living according to like other people's dreams, and I'm trying to figure my way out of somebody else's path.
Yeah.
And instead I need to like do my own path. And I think that like, I don't know, that's such a beautiful moment. I think everybody's like, I hope everybody experiences it where I was like, you know what, I'm gonna start building my own stuff and do my own thing and be proud of what I've done. And even if it fails, at least I tried it. Life's too
Absolutely.
short.
Yeah.
Sometimes living.
Yes. Enjoy it.
Enjoy the process. Trust the process.
Yes.
Trust the process. And be honest with yourself. Be honest with what's working and what's not working. And sit down with yourself. Sit in silence.
Yeah.
Hear yourself out for once.
Yeah.
Hear yourself out for once.
This has been a good talk, guys. It's very therapeutic.
Yeah. I feel like we're all like talking like super like chill.
It's raining here in Florida. It's been raining all day. This is what happens to Floridians when we are faced with a day like today.
I'm happy we had this talk because I think that like people are so scared to have this conversation.
Yeah,
definitely.
And it's so rare that you can go on these social media platforms and see vulnerability, the honesty that feels authentic. So I don't know. I'm just happy that you came on, Mandy, and we just could be super honest with each other and kind of just share, like, check in. This is what we're kind of learning and unpacking. And, this is part of our history on this podcast. And part of why I wanted to do it was just to kind of track this new earth, this new growth, this new energy that Taylor and I feel like we really connected during this pandemic in a way that we didn't all the time. We were able to share things with each other that I couldn't share with anybody else.
Yeah, same here.
I'm so grateful that we're building out this journey together.
Yeah.
Every week, be a new
beautiful
version of ourselves.
Yeah, absolutely.
Definitely. And thank you for having me. It was fun.
Yes.
It feels like a normal conversation with you, Stephanie. It just feels like a normal conversation with you. It's always good stuff, good juicy stuff. We don't have this conversation enough with enough people in our lives, but I feel like the more we normalize these conversations, we feel more inclined to go have it with our sister or our brother or our mom or our dad,
And inspire others to do the same with their family and friends.
Yeah, just keep in mind everyone's going through it. Keep an open heart.
We're all
stay
doing
compassionate.
our best.
Stay kind.
For sure.
Let's just help each other out. That's all you can do.
All right, guys. I think that's it for this week's episode. And thanks so much for tuning in. Check us out on Anchor. We're available on so many different platforms now, which is exciting. So Spotify, etc.
It's etc. YouTube.
YouTube.
Are you guys on Apple yet?
Not on Apple Podcasts yet, but soon.
Okay.
Yes. So
Okay.
keep an eye out for that, and we'll see you guys next week.
Thank you so much for joining us. Bye.
Bye.
Ciao.